Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will face questioning over allegations he misled the Parliament up to 4 times during the COVID Partygate scandal. Evidence suggests the COVID rules breaches would have been obvious to Mr Johnson when images showed him hosting parties at Downing Street.
No longer in office, but still hitting the headlines for all the wrong reasons. The former Prime Minister and the Partygate scandal, overshadowing Rishi Sunak's early achievements on Brexit. And he might as well get used to it, with the latest investigation revealing new evidence that could lead to Boris Johnson being kicked out of Parliament altogether. His future depends on whether he knowingly misled MPs when he was confronted in the House of Commons.
All guidance was followed completely during number 10. I've been repeatedly assured that the rules were not broken. Whatever happened, the guidance was followed and the rules were followed at all times.
It's Parliament's Privileges Committee that will decide whether those denials were genuine. But even as the evidence mounts, there are still those who are loyal to the former Prime Minister.
You can sit there and you can turn around and say, well, you know, this happened, X happened, it's evidence of parties in Downing Street. I think anyone who empirically or independently looked at this evidence would realise that that's absolutely ridiculous. The way his reputation has been besmirched, the way this has happened, I think is evidence of not a serious country.
Labour, keen to capitalise on the latest episode of the Partygate saga, say it's Rishi Sunak who is ultimately responsible for whether his predecessor is punished.
You know, I think there's a really big question for Rishi Sunak now. Will he continue to prop up the former disgraced Prime Minister Boris Johnson with his huge legal defence fund, or will he be clear actually that if Boris Johnson has been found to have lied repeatedly to Parliament, to have misled Parliament repeatedly, that actually Boris Johnson's career should be over?
Rishi Sunak promised a new start when he took over at number 10, but the man that came before him and the illegal parties that went on in the building behind me are still casting a very long shadow here. And whilst the Prime Minister and many of his MPs would like to leave it all in the past, this latest investigation is forcing them to face it all over again. In the end, though, it could be Boris Johnson's constituency that decides his future by way of a recall petition. If enough of them sign it, that will trigger a by-election.
Could have been handled a lot differently and a lot more professional. And he didn't, in my opinion, really, hold his hands up and really say, I messed up.
Yeah, he made mistakes, but then everybody makes mistakes, But I think in the long run, there's no Prime Minister, as I say, that's had to deal with the problems that we had during lockdown. I thought he dealt with it quite well myself.
If anyone acts like that in a position of power, I think they should step down. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Back at number 10, things may have changed since the Partygate days, but the fallout is still being felt.